Hello, and welcome to Gamers Table, a discussion of tabletop role-playing games, war games, movies, books, and other related topics. Be warned, this show may contain some explicit material that may not be suitable for all audiences.
Hello and welcome to Gamers Table. My name is Eric.
This is Mike.
This is Dan.
This is Mark.
This is Jason.
And I'm Sean.
This episode we're going to talk about, well, I don't know what we're going to talk about because Dan has a mystery topic that he's going to spring on us because he said the spontaneity of our response is exactly what he wants here.
Well,
Go ahead.
I don't know if you...
I anticipate some cussing.
So
quite possible.
Should I be prepared for rage?
No, it's a question. It's a question. A few episodes ago, in talking, Mark said something that kind of resonated home. He said, we don't really play long enough to get high level anymore.
Oh, we were talking about it's the episode where we talked about hobnobbing with powerful NPCs.
Right. So then I asked myself, I was like, has the sheer amount of variety, I mean, and this is totally contrary to like the whole concept of variety is the spice of life, has the amount of variety in our games and the variety of games kind of hurt our gaming? And this is the question to you guys.
Okay.
It's all coming back.
Okay. Well, I think that for me, I'm very OCD sometimes when it comes to things, and I like to change things up, and it's mostly because of an attention span. I get bored with things easily. So unless the game we're playing changes after a while to something else, then I'm like, well, let's do something new. And that, I think, is more of a recent feeling of mine, because before we would play D&D and that's all we would play.
The other part of why I thought about this, I was like, because Jason has said on more than one occasion, he would have been completely happy had you stayed on 2nd edition D&D.
Sure.
Okay, so now you're saying that you want to push and you want to level and you want things to kind of move along quickly. So is that because you have something else that you're already thinking about? Or is it because you know what potential is out there because you've got all these source books?
Yeah, the more source books you have, more material you have, the more combinations you come up with.
I thought it's kind of taken some of the power away from, say, Mike as the GM. See, before, during, let's say, the 2nd edition days, the rewards, the benefits, that was all coming from Mike. Think about when the first time you saw that Forgotten Realms source book with all the gear in it.
You're talking about Aurora's Guide.
Aurora's Guide.
Yeah.
I mean, how amazing that was.
Right.
You know, those were kind of like eye-openers, but it was also the beginning of the end, because then you start thumbing through, I want this piece of gear, I want this piece of gear, or you get a source book that has a power, I want this power. So that's what created that drive for more.
Well, I definitely think that we get interested in doing other things based on outside events. I know that movies will influence us to switch up our campaign and play something different. I'm honestly surprised it took us this long to play a totally pirate-themed campaign since the Pirates of the Caribbean movies came out.
We thought we were going to be playing a pirate-themed campaign when Deuce was running
Savage Tide.
That's
a good point.
And I was duped and did not play anything piratey at all.
I don't really think it's that we play too many different games throughout a given year. I think it's more that in the old days, we probably did actually play more than just D&D. I mean,
we had a rotation.
Yeah, we rotated. We played Star Wars, we played Shadowrun, we played D&D, and once in a while we'd throw something else in there.
A very small handful of games.
But we also had more time to play than we do now.
Right.
I mean, now we're old and have responsibilities, and I'm jealous of these guys because they get 2 nights a week to do it, and I only have 1. So
Right, yeah, same here. I'm in the same boat.
But, that being said, I can remember back in the day having 15, 20 different characters that I've made up. I would just sit and make characters all day long. I have a notebook full of characters that I could play at any given point. And so then I'd be like, okay, well, I want to play this character this time.
See, I didn't really do that. I made characters based on we're about to play something, make a guy, and I would make a guy. I think the only time I ever made multiple characters all at once was when we were going to do the Brotherhood, and
where you were playing multiple characters.
A 1st level, a 3rd level, and a 5th level guy.
Right. But yeah, I remember having, just a whole bunch of different characters for the same game.
Well, and I never I put them all in a folder, and that way we would start a campaign. Like, I remember we started it probably half a dozen times to play Forgotten Realms. You can look at my file right now. I bet I've got them all. I bet none of them are more than a level higher than they were when they started. It's just because we got distracted easily, and we'd go on to, or we'd get bored with something, and we'd move on to something else.
I also think that we didn't play with themes back then either. For the most part, we didn't.
I think it's because we have too many ideas now. I know that's my problem. because I have an idea for another guy, and then I want to do that.
Right.
other
Well, that's
idea.
always, and nowadays that's always like, it's like talking about the next game. That's the kiss of death.
Yeah, we don't talk about the next
You
game.
know, so
It's like Fight Club.
right. You know, so you start thinking about the other character that you're going to play, and then you're like, well, I'd rather play that character because that idea seems fresh to me.
But that's well within your control, though. If you've got a different concept that you want to play and it still gels with the campaign you're doing, do it.
Yeah, I know. It's just that I think back when we used to play, when we were younger, our adventures were very seemingly self-contained. Now it seems like we're doing far-reaching storylines. The stories that we're doing now, I think, are better as a collective group. And our input is a lot more creative.
I think before, a lot of times, Mike, it was just a matter of, we knew we were going to be getting together. Mike had no idea what we were going to, we had a vague idea of what game we were going to be playing.
Right.
But Mike just kind of waited to see what we wanted to do for the night.
What we wanted to do and who was going to be there.
Right. A lot of times that may have just revolved around our high-level characters buying and property and building this and doing that and the political intrigue that they were involved in at that time.
That was a lot easier when there was only like a few of you guys.
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, that's
True.
true.
We're going to talk about that on the way up. There's so many people at the Monday game now that you can't really keep Woodside involved in anything.
Well, and that I think that attributes to things too.
Variety of gamers.
Variety of gamers and sheer number of people at the table. It's easier to play one game for a long period of time when it's just a 3-person or 4-person game.
Because you're doing what you want to do more often.
Right.
Rather than...
And the game master can cater things towards those particular characters, whereas as in a large group setting, this one isn't that bad. But on Monday, we've got, 9 guys now sitting at this table, and being able to get that many people focused on one thing, like you just said, it's very hard to do.
And there's no character development when you got that many people, too.
No.
Right. It's just you're pretty much waiting for your turn.
I think you're masochistic, Eric, for even attempting a game that size.
Getting back onto the topic, though, variety keeps people fresh. Hey, we're going to play this game. Oh, I haven't played that game in a while. I'll really focus on what's going on. And then after, say, a month or so, attention spans wane, and then you're like, we need to do something
So
else.
I think we're pushing the envelope right now with the number we have here. I don't mean this is bad. I think if we added one more on a regular
Yes.
basis,
Is the
like
straw
somebody
that
coming
breaks
in
the
once in a
camel's
while
back.
isn't a big deal. But I think if we added one more like permanently, I think that's when it would start to get.
I don't know. It depends on who it is.
It does depend on who it is. That's true. It does depend. If Greg was here on a regular Wednesday, I think that'd be great. I don't think that'd
he'd
be
fit
bad
in
at all.
fine, yeah.
Exactly. But Woodside, I don't like that guy.
Does anybody actually like Woodside? Who brought Woodside?
I like Woodside, but I've never gamed with Woodside. I've only been to 40K-ish with Woodside.
Gaming with Woodside is kind of like gaming with Mike. He doesn't really want to have to roll dice ever.
It's casual gamer.
Yeah, to the extreme. There's different grades of casual gamer. Mike and Woodside are kind of on that far end of casual.
To the extreme.
Yeah. They've got nothing else to do on Monday, so they come together.
They're not really gaming, they're participating. They're just
Yes.
present.
Hanging out.
Okay, so...
Well, I wanted to mention about
Go ahead.
the game rotation. So at first, we had the game rotation, which also meant we only had a couple game masters. And now, like on Mondays, we were talking, we had like 8 or 9 guys. How many of those 8 or 9 guys are also game masters who have their own preference of games? And so, like with me, that time I ran the Mutants and Masterminds on Monday, that was the first time I ran anything at Twilight in 3
Quite
or
a
4
long time.
years.
It was 3 or 4 years.
Had it really been that
Yeah.
long?
Yeah.
Wow.
And I guess it's just because it hadn't got it back around to me or something. I don't know.
Well, yeah,
We also try to keep you from running 2 games a week because you burn out really quickly.
Right.
That's true.
There's only so much of Mike to go around.
Right.
Quality, Mike.
So that's a variety of games, and so we're saying that that's not why we're not leveling. We're just because it's just who we are. It's not the number of games.
When was the last time we took characters to 20? It would have been Age of Worms, right?
Yeah, we played it straight through.
it gets to the point where you're almost having to force leveling.
And we
Yeah,
were,
that's what I'm
because
saying.
I remember doing the Age of Worms. I know I was to the point where I was starting to hate it, and I wanted to do something else.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
Because
see, I've never actually played a game that long.
Neither have I.
I've always jumped in where, okay, you need to make a character to play with us. You make a 10th level guy. And I jump in at 10th level.
Yeah.
You
Right.
know, and I've never played a campaign at length at all. Ever.
What we're doing now
So
is the right
variety
thing,
is
sure.
all I've ever done.
It is my contention, partially why I wanted to do our current Sea Prince's quote unquote pirate themed campaign.
Right.
High seas.
Yeah, High Seas campaign. Why I wanted to do it with the core 3 rule books and the one appropriate source book, which is what Stormrack is the name of it.
Right.
Because I think that the sheer variety of books for 3.5 is one of the big things that ruined it.
They got a term for that. When you have so many options and you don't know what to do with it, it's analysis
Smorgasbord.
paralysis.
Analysis paralysis.
Yes.
I can see that. You've just got too much.
It's overload. It's like sensory overload.
Oh, yeah.
That's pretty common around the gaming table. What's that one feat that I was looking for? I can't remember what book it was in.
Yeah.
And
I
We
like
did that on Monday.
I like that. I like that a lot because it's like, how many times have I sat down to come up with a story for something and thought, especially like D&D or Star Wars or something like that, and I just can't focus on the one thing I want to focus on because I've got to look up all the crap, behind it, and then it gets to the point where there's just so much that I just go, I'm not really interested in doing that anymore.
What was I trying to do in the first place?
Right.
And I think as I look over at the shelf of antiquated books, I see Old Player's Option. 3.5 wasn't the first time they did this.
No, but they
much
learned
of-
from it. They certainly did. They learned from it.
I would say that they didn't because variety of books, I think, killed second edition with the Player's Option, and then they did it again with 3.5.
I think that's just the evolution of the game. It's a matter of we need to sell books, and we know these dopes will buy this stuff if we put it out.
It's certainly their business model. I don't know if it's necessarily the evolution of the game.
No, no. Well, yeah, okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know what you're saying, but I think that's what I mean by the evolution of it is you come out with these books, and then you come out with these books because these are going to be essential to your game. The next thing you know, it's a book every month, and it's some bizarre fairy warriors of some crap or another.
It is a game, but it also is a business.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I don't blame them for trying to make money, but they got to understand. I mean, I think at the end of
It's
the day,
probably business before it's
I think that's part of their business model too. Is that eventually these guys are going to get burned out on buying all this crap, and then we'll just change it up and come out with a new edition. They buy more stuff.
New edition that everybody complains about.
But they still buy.
But luckily, people do buy.
I think that speaks more of the demographic of the game itself. And I'm not just talking about age demographic. I'm just talking about the type of people
The
that
mindset
play
of the
these
gamer.
games. They want something new for what they do. They are not going to just sit there and just have the one book anymore. That's an old mindset. Back in the 70s and 80s when, if you look back at all the old stuff for D&D, yes, they had the core rule books, but there was adventures coming out all over the place.
If my preference is, I think that's how they should make it, because if you're making money from things that are other based on rules, I think it's going to add to the longevity of your game. But I mean, that's just my personal preference.
I think modern consumers want the new, the now.
Yeah, they do.
So I was reading something anecdotal about what you're talking about, the having too many rules. So I came across this blog last night, as a matter of fact, and it was saying how old school D&D, your basic stuff, was actually more advanced than advanced Dungeons and Dragons, because when you came across a rule or some action you wanted to take, the DM had to pretty much make it up on the fly. Whereas now, with all the splat books and the abundance of rules, there is a rule for every kind of action you want to take, but you got to sift through all the books and thus wasting a lot of time finding it.
I find that's interesting because there is this whole movement in the gaming community for independent games, and a lot of these independent games are what they consider rules light. And it's interesting that you say that D&D was like that so long ago, and now people are going, "Oh, this is so great! This is rules light. This is so innovative and new."
Right. Well, there's a lot of offshoots of second edition D&D. That's one of the big pushes. Is, I think, speaking to what Mike's talking about, is that push for a more vague framework, and putting the responsibility back in the hands of the GM and the players.
Exactly.
But
So
how long? I would assume that's probably the direction the fifth edition will go.
it's hard to say. Still,
That's how it will start.
Right, and then it will devolve.
Right.
That's the word I should have used earlier. Instead
Devolve.
of evolve, it should devolve.
So, but so the variety of games, does that keep us from playing?
I try to
longer.
limit myself to 2 or 3 games I run. I mean, there's a lot of cool games out there, but I just know, like you were saying, we don't have time, and I would like to have long-lasting campaigns, so I kind of limit myself to superheroes, sci